in debates and discussions that unearth the stories behind the news. And we have our light moments too by chit-chatting about issues that affect our day-to-day life. Stay right here on the Sundown. Join in and be part of the show on iRadio, your eye on South Sudan.
برنامج سانداون هو وجهتكم للأخبار والآراء والنقاشات والحوارات. استمعوا إلى البرنامج حيث يتحدث فيه أصحاب القرار عن قضايا تؤثر في بلدنا وغارتنا، فقط عبر برنامج سانداون على آي راديو. عينك على جنوب السودان.
Hello and welcome to the Sundown Show on iRadio with me, Madrama James. Today we bring you another special edition of the program marking this year's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Every year, the global campaign runs from November 2025 to the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women to December 10th, Human Rights Day. It's a period when governments, humanitarian organizations, and civil society groups around the world step up their calls to prevent and end violence against women and girls. This year, the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, is centering its campaign on sexual violence in conflict, a critical issue in South Sudan where years of conflict and intercommunal violence have normalized sexual violence among both weapon bearers and civilians. The campaign seeks to raise awareness on the urgent need to end conflict-related sexual violence, to honor survivors, and to remind the public of the protection granted under international humanitarian law. Tonight, we are thrilled to be joined by two guests who are directly working with the community on this particular issue. Saluma Kwaje and Susan Awate. These are sexual violence specialists with ICRC in South Sudan. They will help us unpack the scale of the problem, the response efforts, and the ICRC's unique role in preventing sexual violence through engagement with armed actors. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on Sundown Show for this important national discussion. First, allow me to throw this question to Madam Salume. What does this day mean to ICRC? Welcome on board.
Thank you very much for having us this evening. What this day means to the International Committee of the Red Cross, we are joining the rest of the world on the campaign on the 16 days of action against gender-based violence. And our theme for this year is focused on sexual violence in conflict. So it's an opportunity for the International Committee of the Red Cross to raise awareness on the need to end sexual violence in conflict, and also to recognize the victims or the survivors of sexual violence. So as we might know, sexual violence is not only a war crime, but it also tears communities apart by causing harm to multiple generations. So you might be wondering, what is the business of the ICRC with regards to sexual violence in conflict? As you might have heard, International Committee of the Red Cross, our mission is exclusively to protect and assist people who have been affected by conflict. And sexual violence is one of the violations that have been prohibited under international humanitarian law. And as we all know, South Sudan has suffered many years of armed conflict and intercommunal violence. So I will let my colleagues here also add if there is anything that she needs to emphasize on. Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, our host
James
iRadio. As Salum has stated, of course, our team for this year is its structure around sexual violence in conflict, which is to prevent sexual violence from happening? As we all know that it's possible to prevent sexual violence in conflict in the first place. We know that sexual violence is not only a war crime, but it is also break communities apart by causing harms over multiple generations. So party to a conflict, all parties to the conflict have a duty to what? To prevent and assist all victims of sexual violence in the conflict. Sexual violence that is happening within South Sudan, as we know that the country also is in the conflict. So in South Sudan, the ICRC also aims to prevent and mitigate and also respond to issues of what? Sexual violence. Yeah.
I equally, if I can vividly remember, ICRC is doing a lot of, stuff in ending that GBV. But at the end of the day, we would like also to know, if you take a look at the report of last year plus this particular year, is there improvement or the situation is really deteriorating, Salome?
We can say that since South Sudan is still going on, there's still some parts are still having issues. There are intercommunal violence, and with our neighboring countries that is still in conflict. I think the issue has increased per se, as I can say, because we are still receiving returnees and refugees that are coming from the neighboring countries, and the neighboring country is still in conflict. So even if we know that because of the taboo, people are not reporting the issue, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. You can even see in the news, you can hear, maybe even in your different communities, you hear issues of sexual violence. But as we said, we, as the International Committee of the Red Cross, we focus more on sexual violence during time of armed conflict.
Yes, and especially to the sake of that majority of listener, what does the term really sexual violence in conflict mean?
Let me just say the word in general. Sexual violence in conflict refers to any form of sexual violence that is perpetrated against individuals or groups of individuals that are directly or indirectly linked to armed conflict. If I can just expand something more on sexual violence.
Go ahead.
Most times when we talk about sexual violence, people only think sexual violence is rape. So would like to let people know that sexual violence is not only rape. Sexual violence includes any act of a sexual nature that is committed to a person against their will. It can include rape, it can include sexual slavery. By sexual slavery, we mean like during time of armed conflict, when people are abducted against their will and they are repeatedly raped against their will. And then it can also include forced pregnancy, where someone is forced to get pregnant or someone is forced to keep a pregnancy against their will. It can also include forced abortion, that you're forced to maybe terminate a pregnancy. It is also another form of sexual violence. It can also include forceful stripping. We have seen that a lot during times of armed conflict or during times of communal violence, where perpetrators strip people naked, like you go naked against your will. It can also include invasive body touches, especially when you start touching someone inappropriately, maybe on their breast or on their buttocks, or you start touching their private parts against their will. We also term that as sexual violence. So it's not only rape that is the only form of sexual violence, but includes all these other things that I have mentioned. Yeah.
Susan, how serious is the issue of that sexual violence, more especially in South Sudan context?
Thank you for that question. I think before I answer the question, I want to add also
Go ahead.
What sexual violence is, as Salome stated. Yes, it's something that is done against someone's will or without any consent. It can be by force or under a threat. And she mentioned some of the forms of sexual violence. And sexual violence does not only happen to only women, sexual violence happens to all genders, men, women, girls, even children and small boys. So during conflict, more especially to men, sexual violence sometimes are done to humiliate them, to remove power from them, or also sexual violence in conflict sometimes is done in a way that it's done strategically, sometimes to provoke the enemy or to weaken the power of the enemies, or sometimes it's a tolerated practice whereby you see your colleague, a weapon bearer or one of the soldiers doing this, and there's no any action taken towards it. You are not being punished, there's no accountability. So it gives opportunity to what? To any person to do sexual violence to any person within the conflict. Sometimes it is an opportunistic practice where you find there's nobody seeing you. You're doing your patrol, there's no one who is seeing you around. So you see someone coming very vulnerable, or you see a civilian coming, you are in the bush, so you ended up what? Also doing sexual violence or raping someone. Or you ambush people and then you just abduct them, or you just start doing the act of sexual violence. So in conflict, there are ways that they do what? Sexual violence. Also in places of detentions, we understand the population for men in detention in South Sudan, especially in the conflict-affected countries, the population of men are high in detention, in the places of detentions. So it gives men to be more vulnerable to sexual violence. As he said, sometimes you are stripped naked, your clothes have been removed from you just to maybe interrogate you, or maybe to get an information from you. You find you're being raped. Sometimes they use objects, by the way, to do what? To inflict pain so that you can give any information you have. So these are some of the ways sexual violence happen during conflict. It happens to anyone, despite of your what? Of your gender. So, as we said, it's something sometimes it's done intentionally or tolerated behaviors, or you get an opportunity because there's no any accountability done, and then you continue doing what? Sexual violence. So, as you said, how sexual violence is spread in South Sudan, my colleague Salume has already mentioned one. Given that the country is ongoing conflict and the trend of sexual violence is on increasing rapidly, given our neighboring countries are also going through what? War or a conflict. For example, Sudan conflict. So we find there's some influx that went through sexual violence. So it adds on the numbers of sexual violence that we are having in South Sudan. So it is on high increase. So generally, sexual violence in South Sudan is a widespread thing, and it is a humanitarian what? It's a serious humanitarian concern right now in South Sudan. So it is used as a weapon of war, as we mentioned. There are ways strategically, opportunistic, or even tolerated practice in conflict. So sometimes sexual violence is being used as a weapon of war against what? Civilians. So over a decade of conflicts, as international and also what? Intercommunal violence has led to what? Normalization of sexual violence by weapon bearers. So they take it as if it's now a normal thing that is happening on daily basis. Yes.
Thank you. Salume, what are some of the impact of sexual violence, more especially on survivors?
Sexual violence really causes grave consequences or damaging consequences to the survivor, the family, and even the community at large. A survivor can suffer physical consequences, psychological, or even economic or social consequences. When we come to the physical consequences of sexual violence, survivors can suffer from physical injuries, unwanted pregnancy, or even they can contract sexually transmitted diseases like HIV, syphilis, hepatitis. So it has grave consequences for the survivor or their families. And psychological also, this survivor will have serious consequences. Sometimes you find that people will start having because of the stigma usually that is happening in the community. Stigma is usually the first thing. Like sexual violence is like a taboo in most of our communities. So you find because of the taboo or because of the perception in the community, survivors will suffer stigma. So you'll find people are gossiping about you. Everywhere you pass someone, people might be talking about you. So you find that as a result, this survivor will develop psychological challenges, will have suicidal thoughts, will live in fear, will have shame, and even will have those feelings of guilt. Even you'll find that socially, this survivor will not associate with other people. They will try to isolate themselves. Even you find in most of our cultures, if the husband finds out maybe the wife has been raped, it can cause even divorce. It can cause rejection. We have seen even situations where families have separated as a result of sexual violence. And also economically, someone can lose their ways of survival as a result of conflict, as a result of sexual violence. You'll find that if maybe, for example, if the husband has been the breadwinner in the family and there is already separation, meaning this woman is already losing means of survival. And secondly, sometimes, because of stigma or because of shame, for example, if this woman has been a businesswoman in the market and the people are already gossiping about her, people are already pointing fingers, of course, this woman might be forced, or this man might be forced to move to another locations where your survival is difficult. And also when it happens during time of conflict, you'll find that most times victims suffer sexual violence maybe when they go to their livelihood, they go to their farms, they go and collect firewood, or when they are doing different economic activities. And when it happens, to avoid the risk, you find you not go back to your activities that bring for you survival. So you'll find that economically this survivor will be able to lose their means of survival.
All right. Yeah. I would like us to upgrade a bit, Susan. Now, looking at the impact of this sexual violence from that individual perspective, what negative impact will it also pose on a nation like South Sudan?
Okay, thank you so much for these questions. Just to add on the individual impact, more especially on men, and the health impact for survival of sexual violence. For men, more especially when force is being used, I've mentioned how sometimes it happens to men. Sometimes they use objects. Sometimes they can use also the manhood or the womanhood to do the act. So in that process, you might find sometimes there are a lot of injuries to this man. In the long run, sometimes due to the injuries, sometimes it affects the nerves around the genital area. So you find in the long run, this man will have inability to erect, and it affects the productive system of the man. And this also implies to women, they lose urge for sexual pleasure. You find this prevent them from what? Getting married. So coming to the impact that affects more especially the family, the communities itself. So you find in most cases, as we said, sometimes it's a tolerated practice. It leads to revenge killing or honor killing. In most cases, you find our people being raped in the community. So you find the organized group of people to go and revenge against this what? So you find the trends of conflict continues. It's not stopping. So this is one of the major impact. And then it also tarnishes the image, first of all, of the country, or of the what? Or of the group of the people who perpetrated this act. And then it also impacts on the social life of the community or of the families. So with this, as we say, the family is traumatized. There are also, for example, if this is a breadwinner of the family that is being raped or it is being assaulted, is a survivor. So the loss of the income to the family it goes down because there's no one now who is doing the business. The economic status is worsening of the family. So this generally affects the what? The country itself, also the family and the community or the whole society itself.
All right.
Yes.
And now over to you, Salume. What kind of support is ICRC providing to survivors of that sexual violence?
Our response is both on the side of prevention as well as on the side of response. So on the side of response, we ensure that survivors get multidisciplinary care, ranging from health care, psychosocial support or mental health support, and also including even economical support. What we cannot provide, we coordinate with our other organizations to be able to provide the service. And then on the side of prevention, we are working hand in hand with the weapon bearers to ensure that sexual violence in a conflict is prevented. So basically for the International Committee of the Red Cross, we are working to prevent, mitigate, and even respond when it comes to sexual violence. So there are a number of activities that we do together for the survivors as well as with the community. With regards to prevention, we are working together with the community. We are engaging key influential persons in the community, and we are working closely with our partner organization, which is the South Sudan Red Cross. So we are working closely with the South Sudan Red Cross to do community awareness, also to ensure that survivors are able to access services including health, psychosocial support, and even the economic support. So basically these are the main things that the International Committee of the Red Cross does. I will let my colleague add if there's anything that I might have forgotten.
Thank you, Salome. Yeah, maybe I'll add something on the prevention parts. As we engage with the weapon bearers, include the police. So with the weapon bearers, of course, we normally remind them that sexual violence is prohibited under international humanitarian law. Even our domestic law of South Sudan, sexual violence is illegal in the country. Once you got a perpetrator, you're supposed to go to the prison for 14 years, and you are liable for what? For a fine. So we also remind the parties to the conflict about these laws, and we also urge to them to respect the international humanitarian law, including the international human rights law that says sexual violence is criminal. It's a criminal, yeah. It's a crime of war against human right. So we always remind them in our prevention work through trainings, awareness, through our meetings, and then with the police we also remind them about the domestic law, the issue of the mandatory reporting. We understand that this also affects survivors to access services, the life-saving services, more especially the medical care within the 72 hours. So the issue of mandatory reporting, we understand the mandatory reporting is anything that is of criminal against someone's will. It's supposed to be reported to the police first. So we understand with this has created a lot of barriers. Many survivors don't seek health care within 72 hours because whenever they go to the health facilities, they are referred to the police to go and get what? Form 8. So with this, we engage with the police, with the other sectors who are working on the policies to ensure to reinforce this type of policies. Good enough, last year in 2024, there was a police release saying that Form 8, it's not a preconditions. Yani dema haja al-awel al-zol bagda yani ligol isa mashinu.
Yani oma dururi.
Yeah, oma dururi asan zol biligo ilaj fi msesfa. So medical care first, and then Form 8 is second thing if the survivor wish to get, particularly for survivor of sexual violence. So this is something that ICRC also have been engaging with police, with local authorities to ensure that these policies are being reinforced, And right now we are also trying to pass out the informations so that survivor can access medical services within the 72 hours. Even after 72 hours, still survivors have right to what? To access medical care to reduce the impact of sexual violence. Salome talked about unwanted pregnancy, transmission of diseases. So if this life-saving care is given within 72 hours, so the impact will be what? Reduced. So this is something we are also working on. We are also advocating for that.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Salome, some communities have normalized, issues related to sexual violence. Now, in that regard, what kind of messages or call would you put across to such kind of communities? And then over to you, Susan, after Salome, in less than 2 minutes. Let's briefly talk about the issue of perpetrators. Once if they are arrested in few months or before finishing their jail term, you will see this person loitering out. What kind of action should individuals, neighbors, communities, and law enforcement agencies take to make sure that perpetrators of that sexual violence also face the law? First, Salome. Yeah, the question is...
Okay, maybe before Salome comes in, just to make it clear, what I was saying is sexual violence in conflict, sometimes it can be done strategically, opportunistic, or tolerated. In the opportunistic, you find that someone is doing it, so there's no any action taken. You don't see this person, there's no accountability that is happening. So you continue also doing, since there's no any accountability done to the perpetrator, and then you also have the opportunity to what? To do the act or to perpetrate sexual violence. Yes.
To communities now who have normalized, sexual violence, what other role can they really play, either to report and make sure that survivors of sexual violence get the support?
Okay. Like she mentioned, during conflict, people can take advantage of the situation to commit crimes. So during our trainings, we involve key community influencers like the chiefs, the local chiefs, women groups, the police, even we include them during our trainings. We continuously, and during our trainings, we also emphasize on the consequences of sexual violence, because there is a lot of lack of knowledge in the community. People don't know that when this crime is committed, you will get sexually transmitted diseases, you get unwanted pregnancy, and you will get injuries and the other associated issues with the consequences of sexual violence. So people are not aware. That's why maybe sexual violence is normalized in the community. And also the other issue she mentioned, very important. If people take advantage, people are not being arrested, people are not being taken, accountability is not being taken. So meaning the issue will continue to rise. People will take it as a normal thing. But if we continuously remind the community that sexual violence is a crime and it is punishable by both international humanitarian law and also with our local laws in South Sudan. If we continuously remind the community on the consequences, we remind them that this is a crime, we remind them about the grave consequences of sexual violence, I think the cases of sexual violence will really reduce. And if the laws also in the country are really reinforced, these laws are already in place. The laws in South Sudan are very clear. It's only that the communities are not aware. So maybe they see some of the things as normal, but in actual sense it's not normal. Maybe the communities are not aware that it's a crime. The communities are not aware that it's something that is punishable by law. So if we continuously create awareness among the communities, if we continuously remind the communities about the consequences, we remind them that it's a crime, I think they will be able to see it as an issue or as a problem facing the community. And also you find that in most of our communities, people don't want to talk about sexual violence. It's like a taboo. It's like a taboo to talk about sexual violence, mainly because of the stigma that the survivors will face, because of the stigma that the communities will face. So if we continuously remind the communities that sexual violence is not the fault of the survivor, and we should not blame the survivors. Instead, we should shift our attitude from blaming the survivors or blaming the victims to blaming the perpetrators. It doesn't matter in what situation it happened, but always the blame should go to the perpetrators, not to the survivors. So you find that most times sexual violence is normalized because, we always say that sexual violence is the only form of violence where the victims are blamed. Like during conflict, when killing happens, when people get separated, when people's items are looted, people blame the perpetrators. But when it comes to specifically sexual violence, instead the survivors are blamed. So we would like to let the communities know that sexual violence is not the fault of the survivor, but we should shift our attitude towards blaming the perpetrators.
Dear listener, up to here, let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, I will be taking a look at some of your messages. You send them here. So far, so good. And then give you a chance on 0911-022-986 and 986 to ask you a good question.
إتاكم بصمة لإذاعة آي راديو إنتاكم في جنوب السودان. بيصادف في شهر ده بداية حملة 16 يوم من نشاط ضد عنف القائم على النوع الاجتماعي. ده وقت كويس لجنوب السودان عشان يتحدى في التزام سلام الكربادة من بيوتنا ومجتمعاتنا. العنف ضد النساوين وبنات إذا كان جسديا أو عاطفيا أو اقتصاديا ده أزمة حقوق إنسان بيشتت أسرة وبوقف تقدم دولة. دعوة ده تسند بسيط كلنا حرك حسي كلنا وقفوا العنف الإلكتروني ضد نساوين وبنات مساحات آمنة للجميع. كده إيه فرد من أن كان دي رجال ولا نسوان ولا شباب كلنا هارب تقاليد البطال البي أسمع بإساءة دي. كلنا كلاغو مساحة آمن ونبدامو الناجيات في نستتنا. متاكم أسكت متاكم جاهلو. إذا إتاكم أو إيه زولتكم بعرفوا بيعاني من عنف لازم كدتكم يتواصل مع بوليس في هلتكم أو شيخ الحلة لأنه مساعدة ده فيه. كده ناس جاساوا وقفتكم عنف عشان مجتمعنا بكون قوي. رسالة ده جبولتكم من إذاعة آي راديو وآي ميديا البدامو لحملة 16 يوم من النشاط البيستمر لحد يوم 10 ديسمبر 2025 يوم حقوق الإنسان كلنا كتو قيمة لكل يوم.
This festive season, boost your business with iRadio's exclusive holiday offers.
For the next 6 months, from November 2025 to April 2026, we're offering special discounted rates to elevate your brand.
Get a significant discount on iRadio talk shows. Rate thousands with our radio sports at a reduced rate and make your message stand out on social media with a short video, all at a special festive rates.
Hurry up, this limited time festive rates won't last.
Contact iRadio today and let's make your brand shine this holiday season.
خليك هنا في آي راديو أنا تكون في جنوب السودان. اتباقدر دايما ونسوا مع آي راديو على نمرة التليفون 0911-986-986 أو تبي رسل رسالة على نمرة 0913-986-986.
A warm welcome back from the break. It's a high time now for you to grab that cell phone and dial our studio line on 0911-022-986 and 986. We have Alex Jaika following us live, and he's sending his regard to Consul Salume in the studio. Thank you. James Sieta is saying, hello, Madrama. James, I'm watching you live from Wow, Western Bar, Al-Khazali State. Let us stop gender-based violence against our mothers, daughters, and girls as well. Eromgo Patrick from Nimule Municipality in Eastern Equatoria State is asking why sexual violence against men aren't taken seriously even when you report it to police. We will get back to answer that question, but first let's hear from this caller. Hi Radio. Well, get back to us on 0911022986 Hi Radio.
Hello, hi Radio.
Naam.
You are connecting with you and I calling from Awil.
Good to have you, Anai.
How are you in the studio?
I'm not complaining, my brother. How are you?
Not bad, bro. Welcome to us in the studio.
Thank you.
My question goes like this. We always talk about sexual violence on radio, and we want to know that not all South Sudanese can listen from radio. There are individuals that always listen from radio. When we want to pass this message in order to reach communities up to the grassroots level, we need to extend trainers such that they will come and train community on how to stop this sexual violence in the country. This is question number one. Question number two. How do we know sexual violence is very bad on behalf of our community? Sometimes, for example, I can engage. I have some relationship with a teenager age of girl, and I'm an adult. At that period, as we know ourselves, according to romantic, whenever we go to play romantic thing with a girl, we know our part can take place. At that period, how do I stop? How do I control myself such that I cannot do this sexual violence?
Okay, you mean in a situation where there is a consent, right?
Yes.
Okay. Salume and Susan is right here to answer your good question. And another quick caller. Hi Radio. Hi Radio. Still, you can get back to us on 0911022986 coverage and then the issue of consent. Hi Radio.
Madrama Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
You are with Samuel Mayop from Vienna.
Good to have you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the guests in the studio for the topic of today about gender-based violence. I want to ask Madrama, how do IRC address, like when a mad person, a perpetrator, solve the problem to any individual lady?
You mean to a mentally sound lady?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. How like, if it's a mad person, that problem, how do they address it?
Thank you. I got you right. You are talking about issues of rape now in a situation where a mentally ill person raped a mentally sound lady. How is ICRC addressing such a issue? Hi Radio. Hi Radio.
Madrama Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ustaz Satolfuk. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, what's your quick question to my guest in the studio?
And I greet the guests who are there in the studio.
Thank you.
And I greet all the listeners and regular scholars across the South Sudan. I appreciate the topic because our activists on human rights, they are doing their job. But the implementation is very low because we need our people to aware in everywhere, in every corner, in every state, up to Bayam level. But always, our people who are activists are sit on the media house and say, we are talking about this gender, but it is not possible. If we need to know what what advantage of the right of human, the right of everything. Just let us go on the grassroots to make awareness to our people, our community, even our children, to know the human right is arrived on the grassroots. But the most of the people, they did not listen to the radio. Just 5% listen to the radio, and 95 they are there. How can we aware to reach 95 and leave 5%? How can? Number two, أنا قاعدين نتكلم 24 ساعة عشان موضوع بتاع الحقوق الإنسان. حقوق الإنسان بيتكلم 12 يوم 14 يوم زي البداية في شهر 12 ده في الأسبوع اللي فات ده يوم الليلة أننا قاعدين نناقش فوقه. المناقشات قاعدين نعمله في جوال الاستديو وأننا ما خطينا بالنا فوقه عشان نوديه هناك في البرة عشان الزول ما يعرف الكلام بقول حقوق الإنسان المعناته شنو، وكمان حقوق الإنسان الطريقة يعطوا طريقة عشان يكون أنت تعرف حقوق الإنسان the way forward.
نعم شكرا.
لأنه أننا دايرين عشان كنا عشان حاجة ده ما في زول يكون بقول أنا ما قديان في القضية ده، لأنه لو أنت مشيت في قدام المحكمات تلقى في زول الحق بتاعه ما بديه عشان شنو؟ عشان قروش. الناس الجد بتاعه عنده قروش ده وبعدين يمشي وبيشيل الحق بتاع زول. هذا الناس ذاك تقول لهم شنو؟
شكرا أستاذ تولفوك. وسط سؤال according to him a lot is being said, but actions, more especially at the grassroots level, is not really carried forward like what's happening on the radio. Then plans also for those who are in villages. Last caller for now. I radio.
Yeah, Madrama James.
Yes, sir.
David.
How is Magui?
Yeah, Magui is okay. Very
Tell
nice.
us.
My question is going direct to the guest.
Go ahead.
So, did they even reach a chance? Because it's through chance, huh? They can even mobilize, even they can even just the pastor, do even announce, even preaching, and to convince even the youth, because the church is a way of information of citizens. If they reach even any community or form a committee to mobilize the youth for some GBV.
Thank you. Thank you. Whether Salome and Susan, are you people going to the church and share the same messages of that sexual violence? Let me start with you. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you very much, all our listeners who have been able to ask different questions. I see one talked about only doing the awareness on radios and the grassroots are not taken care of, or they are not engaged most times in these different messages. So like I mentioned before, on the side of the International Committee of the Red Cross, we are working together with communities, with the South Sudan Red Cross volunteers. You know, the volunteers come from the community, so they are part of the community. And also we train them, we train the volunteers, we train the key community influencers, including religious leaders, women leaders, the local chiefs of the different communities. So we train them to be voices in the community. We train the South Sudan Red Cross volunteers who are carrying out awareness in the community to pass key messages on sexual violence. So in all the areas that we are working, we are engaging with the communities closely, including them in the trainings that we conduct. And also the fact that the volunteers come from the communities and they are conducting community awareness in different communities, either through focus group discussions, they even doing the community awareness through door to door, and even some are so creative that they do even in health facilities, especially in the waiting area. Some even move even up to churches. They're doing communities, they're doing awareness in all, in the community in different ways, including through the focus group discussions, through the house to house. So our volunteers are working hand in hand with the communities. They are engaging communities to create awareness about sexual violence.
Now, another question from Eramgo Patrick from Nimule Municipality. Cases of that sexual violence, even if men to report them to police station, they are not taken serious. Why?
You know, there is a belief here, if we don't create awareness in the community that sexual violence happens to anyone, people will not believe that sexual violence also happens to men as well. So like she mentioned before, sexual violence can happen to anyone, including women, girls, boys, and men. So you find that because of our culture, because of the most of our cultures that reinforce more on sexual violence, so you find that when sexual violence happens to a man, you know, it's like you're losing your power to be a man. So you find that many men, they fear even to report cases of sexual violence. So the issue we have here is, in the law, it recognizes everyone, whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, the law recognizes. Maybe the issue we have here is now the implementation of the law. As you know, in our country, there are so many things. The policies are in place, the laws are in place, but I think the main issue is implementation of the law. Not only on sexual violence, but also even on other issues.
Salome, a weapon bearer, but who is mentally sick, decided to, sexually assault a lady who is mentally or physically well. How do you handle such kind of cases?
Maybe what we forgot to mention about is consent. There are certain groups of people who cannot be able to consent, So we mentioned some of them, including people who have mental health issues, including someone who is under threat. Like during conflict, it can happen between someone who is carrying a weapon and a civilian. So when you're under threat, you cannot be able to give consent. You cannot be able to consent.
All right. Susan, whether you people are going to the churches and pass some kind of information, David is asking.
Yeah, as you said, we do community awareness. And this community awareness, church is also part of the community. Yes, the volunteers, sometimes they mobilize the community through the church to pass the key messages. Even during our trainings, we invite the religious leaders, the police, the key influencers, the people who have a voice in the community to get this information on sexual violence. So in the churches, we also pass informations.
All right.
Through training, through awareness. Yes.
Thank you. Let me have a look at a message coming in from Sarah Anthony, all the way from WOW, that thank you so much for the topic of discussion. Though South Sudan is still, it's a lot of awareness. Thank you, Sarah. And you respond back to that, Eramgo Patrick, that the problem is men don't report the cases due to the cultural norms. So dear listener, up to here, we have come to the end of our conversation, focusing on that sexual violence. And I was blessed to be joined by Salome Kwajem, Susan Awate, sexual violence specialist from the ICRC South Sudan. Thank you all for coming. I've been your host, Madrama James, and I would like also to thank Darlington Moses and Awan Moses. These are the guys behind our social media coverage. And thank you all for information and